Hi guys and welcome to Crazy Burger. So the Thalamus Collection 1 has been announced for Evercade. It will release in July. But in this video I'm going to do a sneak preview and play through all 11 games that will be included in this collection. Will it be worth buying? Is it really going to be the best C64 collection yet? Yep, I've probably got some rose-tinted spectacles while playing some of these games. So my opinion might be slightly biased. Anyway guys, without further ado, I'll try being honest as possible. Let's play through these games. Okay guys, before we actually get stuck into playing the games, let's have a look at the games that are included in this collection. I am actually quite surprised that we're getting one collection with 11 games. I thought they might have split them into two, so that is a really good sign. There's some great value games in here and some classics from the C64 era. Yeah, we've already had 3 collections already for C64, and yeah, they're certainly mixed quality. There's a few classics in there, but probably not enough. Will there be more classics in this one? Certainly Thalamus is a big name for me. Obviously if you're outside UK and you've never even had a C64, you're probably not even going to recognise this company or the games at all. Even if you had a C64 and you lived outside the UK, you might not even know them at all. But if you had one in the UK, you certainly will know Thalamus, and obviously Creatures being probably the most famous game from that collection. But anyway, in the collection will be Hunter's Moon Remastered. Now this is quite interesting because this is an enhanced version of the original game. It's basically got a nice sort of intro to it, and it's got a ton of added levels, and it's something of a kind of a shoot 'em up style thing, a strategic shoot 'em up I would say, and it's pretty decent. We've also got Armalyte the Competition Edition. Not entirely sure what the difference is between the Competition Edition. I guess it's another enhanced version, so another bonus that we're getting enhanced version. It does look a little bit and play a little bit like the game called Snare that's on one of the other C64 collections. And we've also got Hawkeye, which is a sort of scrolling shoot 'em up. I'd say it was more a run and gun game than a platform game, so it's a bit of a mix between that. We've also got Snare. This is, it's hard to actually say, so it's a sort of top-down maze-style shooter type thing. It's very interesting how it works, and this game was probably the first Thalamus game I ever actually played on the C64 because it came bundled with the pack that I got with my Commodore 64 at the time. It's really nice. The graphics are lovely and colourful, and that's probably something you'll notice about a lot of the games included here is the colourful graphics. Thalamus certainly had some high quality games in their library. Next up we also have Retrograde. That's a little bit like Forgotten Worlds, if you remember that game. That is on, I can't remember what collection it's on to be honest, but probably Technos or Data East, I can't remember. But Retrograde, it's kind of like that. You're a floating space guy, some sort of space warrior, and you're basically trying to destroy all the enemies, collect enough points, upgrade your weapons and make progress like that. And it is a successor to Cyberdyne Warrior. So if you obviously look at the that Cyberdyne Warrior, which is on C64 Collection 3, I think. The graphics are a little bit similar. Obviously, the main character is similar. It's made by the same guys, funny enough, that made this, which I think is the Roland brothers, or I think they're brothers. Creatures is probably the most famous game for here, and this is definitely one of the games that I would put in my top 3 games of all time on Commodore 64. If you watch my channel, you know that I really love this game, and I've played it on the channel tons and tons of times, and I absolutely love it. Now I might be looking at it a little bit with rose tinted spectacles. Some people might not see the fuss, which is absolutely fine. I totally get it. So I have a lot of nostalgia for this game, and I absolutely love it. It does get ferociously hard after the first few stages. I mean, you think the first few stages are hard, it gets ridiculous after that. So those save states are going to be very vital for that game, and probably even most of the games I would say on here. Summer Camp is a sort of collect 'em up, a platformer where you need to collect all the different parts for the Acme. I think you need trying to build something. I can't remember the actual story. The Stars and Stripes flag has been stolen, so you need to build it back up again, type of thing. So it's pretty cool, but it is a toughy game, and I think save states again will probably save this a lot. We've also got Heatseeker. That's probably one of the ones I've never actually played before, or I don't remember playing it, but it is absolutely bizarre, really strange stuff indeed. I really don't remember playing it, to be honest. Now we've also got the sequel to Creatures 2 Torture Trouble, which kind of focused more on the bonus stages you got at the end of each of the levels, which was like a torture scene where you're trying to rescue one of your fuzzy wuzzies from the sort of torture chambers. Very cool, but I really wasn't a big fan of a game entirely evolving around that, because it was really quite tough. Didn't get a lot of lives, and it was quite easy to die and not actually be sure what you're supposed to do. And so I'm pretty sure this game, and probably a few of these games, you're going to have to refer to a lot of online guides to help you figure out what you had to do. I remember having to do it back in the day, reading the magazines, trying to figure out, right, how do I do this level, and getting some inspiration from there. Because obviously this is way back before the internet. All you could rely on was pretty much the magazines that were released on a monthly basis. We've also got Winter Camp, which is, I think it's the sequel to the Summer Camp. I can't remember playing this one an awful lot, to be honest. I probably did, but I cannot remember. And we also have Nobby The Aardvark, which is a kind of a traditional style platformer game. And it reminds me a little bit like CJ's Elephant Antics. And graphically, I think they're all absolutely superb. The quality does vary a little bit between all of them, and I'll give you my honest opinions when I'm going through playing the games and what I actually think. Obviously, I love Creatures. I'm a little bit biased towards that. But anyway, let's get stuck into playing the games. So first up is Armalyte, the Competition Edition. I'm pretty sure you can play this as a two-player game at the same time, which is pretty cool. Not a big fan of shoot-em-ups, but I think this one is actually really decent. It's nice and colourful. It does remind me a lot of the other shoot-em-ups we have on the C64 collection. I think there's Slayer, I think it reminds me a lot like that, and the secret game that was unveiled recently with C64 Collection 3 and 2 on your VS. It's very similar to those style games. It is pretty cool, a lot going on. It is pretty cool for a C64 game. If you like your shoot 'em ups, I'm pretty sure you will enjoy it. It probably isn't too taxing, but sometimes I got confused at what ship was which and what I was actually shooting at, because I was getting confused what ship I was. So it did get a little bit confusing for me, but that's just me. I'm not really great at shooters anyway, but it's a pretty decent example, and I'm sure those that love shoot 'em ups will really enjoy this one. Okay, so this is without doubt one of my all-time favourite Commodore 64 games. I think what always stuck out for me was the colourful graphics, the great fun gameplay, and all the different moves that you can do, the collectibles. Yes, it does get very hard, but it always fascinated me, it always dragged me in, and I kept playing the game over and over. I used to play this game constantly back in the day on my original C64. Absolutely loved it. And I have played it lots recently as well. I even played it on my Steam Deck recently and really enjoyed it. Yes, it does help if you've got save states. I think trying to play this game, especially some of the later levels, is unbelievably tough, and I don't think you're going to make much progress through the game without those save states, because it's just ridiculously hard. There's no way I could have completed this back in the day either without using those classic, I think it was pokes they were called. You typed in this program in BASIC before you started the game, which probably took you hours to actually type in. Then you obviously started that you get infinite lives, infinite health, that sort of thing to help you actually progress through games, and it was massively helpful. But anyway, I am a massive fan of this game. Yes, it is very tricky. I love the sound effects, the music, the graphics for a C64 game were absolutely fantastic. That colourful look was just brilliant stuff, and it certainly still stands out as a really good fun game. I'm not really sure everyone's going to have the same idea of the game as me. I'm sure lots of people do love it, but those who've never played it before might have a different feeling about the game. They might not see where the fuss is at. Yes, some of the sort of jumping between platforms is very, very tricky. Just think what that was like back in the day with an actual stiff joystick that was useless. It was almost impossible. But using the D-pad, it's actually a lot better. Yes, this was on the original C64 Mini, but I'm pretty sure they actually lost the license and it was removed in further updates, which was kind of weird. But absolutely brilliant game, and definitely a classic C64. And as I said, it's probably in my top 3 Commodore 64 games of all time. The other couple would probably be something like IK Plus, Microprose Soccer, Turricane. You take your pick. Even Speedball 2, the Commodore 64 edition, I absolutely love. Maybe we'll see some of those games at some point, but I'm just absolutely chuffed to bits that we're getting creatures on the Evercade, which is just almost like a dream come true, I guess, but it's a little bit far-fetched. It's just one of those games I definitely wanted to see on this system, and I'm looking forward to playing it on the little handheld and on the VS as well. Cannot wait. Yes, it does get very tough. Those later levels are unbelievably tricky, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people will get frustrated. But I love the first level. I love going through the torture level. Although I'm not a big fan of the torture levels, that's what the second game is entirely based around. But it was a nice break between the level structure of the game. I think there's 2 or 3 levels, then you get the torture scene, then you move on. You can upgrade your weapons as well. Obviously, you see all those flashy sort of collect 'em ups. These are for upgrades for your weapons. Later in the game. Absolutely love the game. I can't speak high enough of this game, and I hope you love it as well. But I'm pretty sure there's folks out there who'll probably not really see the fuss about it. But for me, I absolutely love it. So if you're lucky enough to actually get to the torture scene, this is pretty much what it looks like. Now, sometimes when you get to this point, you're not entirely sure what you're supposed to do. Now, obviously the ultimate goal is to try and save the Fuzzy Wuzzy from a horrible, gruesome death, which probably should be rated 18. If you see it in a minute, you'll understand why. It's pretty gruesome. Blood is flying everywhere. Obviously, I exaggerate a little bit here, but the idea is basically to try and stop that Fuzzy Wuzzy from dying, and you basically have to try and figure out the best way of doing it. Obviously in this level you're trying to reach to the top to get the cannonball into the sort of machine there and fire it and take the big purple guy out, and then complete that stage and move on to the next level. But it does get a little bit frustrating because it's not entirely clear, so you'll probably lose a few lives once you figure out what to do. So as I mentioned earlier, picking up all those sort of flashing creatures allows you to upgrade your weapons at the end of every sort of stage, and this is very important because some of those enemies are quite hard to reach, especially the ones maybe that droop up the way or have a little bit more firepower. So try and collect them and get as many of these weapons as you possibly can, because it definitely makes your life a lot easier when you get through these tougher next stages. Okay, so this is Creatures 2 Torture Trouble, and as per the sort of title there, it's basically, most of the game is based around the torture stages that you've seen on the first game. And personally, I wasn't a big fan. I'm not saying it's a bad game, it certainly was well rated back in the day. The graphics are amazing, lovely colourful graphics, but I got a little bit frustrated with it. The amount of times that I died trying to figure out what you're supposed to do. It's certainly a lot tougher than the original game, and I'm sure at the time I had to refer to a lot of guides to try and finish some of these stages because it really is tough. But once you figure it out, there is some satisfaction there once you actually complete it. But the level of frustration does seem a lot higher than the first game for me, and that sort of stopped me playing it a lot back in the day. It's still a really cool game, but it's a lot more frustrating to actually play. So most of the game is surrounding those torture scenes. There's a few different bonus stages in between those as well, but I just got a little bit frustrated, and I think based on that I didn't play it as much as Creatures 1. And I guess you don't have save states like you do on like emulation devices and on Evercade, so not having those save states, it's just so frustrating. I think it'll be easier on Evercade. So next up it's Hawkeye, which is a run and gun style game, platform style game, which is pretty cool. You can obviously change between the different weapons that you have. Some is like a machine gun, I think one's maybe a shotgun, a grenade launcher, that type of thing. And the idea is trying to collect, I think it's 4 emblems that are based around the level. And you probably have to retrace your steps back and forth between the sort of different platforms there till you actually find the emblems, so that then you can get to the end of the level and complete it. So there's one there at the bottom, that's one of the 4 that you need to collect so that you can actually finish each stage. Sometimes it gets a little bit weird because I think I played through this quite a few times and none of the emblems have all appeared. Obviously I've only maybe collected 2, then I'm just going back and forth and the final one won't appear. I'm not sure if that's an actual bug or maybe it's just how I was playing it, but that's just what I experienced when I was playing the game. But eventually once you get those 4 emblems, scroll to the end and you will move on to the next level. But those enemies just keep on coming. There's no point trying to take everything out. Just anything that comes across your way, take out, because they do respawn constantly, time and time again. A pretty cool game, I think. It's decent enough, nice and colourful, and I certainly think a lot of people enjoy this one. It's pretty decent. Okay, so this one is a new one for me, and I don't remember playing it back in the day. I think I would have remembered if I'd played this, because it's absolutely weird. I'm not even sure what the character is. It's a boot with a hook with some kind of a basketball, and the sort of plot of the game is surrounding acid rain that's infecting the forest here, and you have to use the basketball to take out the fires or something. I have no clue what is going on. The controls are weird, the game is weird, the graphics are nice and colourful, but the design feels a bit almost buggy and strange. The idea of the game certainly seems as if it came from the mind of Jeff Minter. It really is that bizarre. I'm not saying it's a bad game, I just think it's really odd and it's not entirely clear what you're supposed to do. Absolutely bizarre. I'm not sure if anyone will like this game. I'm pretty sure some people enjoy it to an extent, but it is absolutely bonkers weird. Okay, the next game is Hunter's Moon. This is the remastered version that was done, I think it was 2017, 2018, which is pretty cool. It adds this lovely intro here and some extra levels as well, which is cool. So what I'm going to do now, if you want to skip this, you can, but I'm going to play through the intro because I think it's actually really cool. So the idea of Hunter's Moon is to collect the star cells, or the little star clusters you see on each stage, before you can move on to the next sort of stage. Once you collect enough, you'll be able to then choose the next level automatically, and then once you collect enough on each stage, you'll then sort of kickstart a bonus stage as well, and then you'll keep on moving through. Apparently there is about 180 levels on this remastered edition, which is absolutely insane. So we're getting really good value for money here. I think there's also a level editor as well, according to itch.io. It's currently selling for about $5 if you're interested in playing it, which is really cool. It's a really nice addition, and it's great that we're getting this version on Evercade. It might well certainly be one of the best games on this collection, along with Creatures. Arguably, it's not your traditional shoot 'em up, but it is a very cool game. I think a lot of people will really enjoy getting their teeth stuck into this one. So, Nobby The Aardvark is probably, in my view, the worst game on this collection. I just didn't have a lot of fun playing it. This also appeared on the C64 Mini, I'm sure, but I just think it's very frustrating. If you can see here, you just constantly die. The collision detection isn't particularly great, and the way the level structure is, it's just frustrating. The enemies can hit you at any point. Yes, you do start with a lot of lives, which is helpful, but they will go very, very quickly due to the way that the sort of structure of the game is. It's just horrible at times and very frustrating. It does remind me a lot of CJ's Elephant Antics, which we also have on Evercade. The graphics are really nice, and the idea is just to try and clear all the ant hills that you see, suck out all the ants, which you can then use the ants as firepower against all the enemies. But I didn't enjoy playing this. I thought it was an entirely frustrating game. You're definitely going to need a lot of patience to play through this. So next up is Retrograde, which little bit like Forgotten Worlds, I guess, just a little bit, and it's a little bit of a grindy experience. So the idea is to try and defeat as many enemies as you possibly can, which then they drop some kind of credits, which you then can spend in the shop to upgrade your weapons, and then eventually get, I think it's a bunker buster or something you get, which then enables you to complete the stage. But it just seems a bit grindy. You just need to keep on taking out enemy after enemy till you build up enough sort of credits to then spend in the shop and that type of thing. But I didn't really enjoy it. It's not a bad game as such, but I just don't really like games that are very grindy. I don't get a lot of enjoyment out of it. But I'm pretty sure if you like this type of game, then you will really enjoy it, because there's a lot going on here. The graphics are nice, sounds nice, but I just don't really enjoy that sort of grindy experience. It gets a little bit boring for me. But if you like this, then I'm pretty sure you'll love this experience. Okay, next up it's Snare, and this is a really cool sort of a snake style game, probably the best way of describing it. The graphics are really cool, but I think the first time anyone plays this, it will be confusing, because you press left and right on the D-pad, it basically changes the viewpoint of the screen, and it does take a little while to get your head round it. But the idea is to try and take out the enemies on each stage. You can see in the top left hand corner you've got this map there, so you're trying to take out the red enemies. You can also jump over those gaps as well. Those arrows actually make your ship speed up, so you have to be careful with that. You press up, you go faster. You press down, you will slow down your ship. I think if you hold the fire button down, you will also jump over gaps. I think you can also hold down the fire button, press down, you will create a trail behind your ship, which can then trap the enemy, and you can obviously move on to the next stage. You can also just press fire button once and it will fire at the other ships on each stage. A little bit confusing to get your head around it, but once you get used to the controls and understand what you're supposed to do, it's a really cool game. Graphically, I think it's fantastic, lovely and colourful, and a really nice game. It's not an amazing game, but it is cool once you get to grips with it and understand what you're supposed to do. Certainly one of those ones that will benefit from save states, because it does get a little bit tough, but decent enough game. Okay, next up is Summer Camp, and I played this one quite a lot back in the day and got a little bit addicted once I understood what to do. So you see those square boxes there, those are actually pick-em-ups. Some are health, some are bad, some will actually kill you. Obviously the mouse trap, if you touch that you will die instantly. The parachute helps with fall damage. I can't really remember what the rest of them do, but the main idea is to collect those Acme boxes to complete the drawing you see at the top right hand corner screen. But it's a very frustrating game. It's one that will certainly benefit massively from save states because you will die constantly. It is very, very tough and frustrating, and one of those games that you definitely need to take your time with. There's no time limit, so take your time once you understand what you need to do. But it is tough. Very, very frustrating. I think it's really nice. It's certainly better than Winter Camp. I think Winter Camp isn't that great, to be honest, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But this game, pretty decent once you know what you're doing. Okay, next up is Winter Camp, and it's a very different game to Summer Camp. This initial stage was really frustrating for me, and because you're supposed to waggle the D-pad, much like you would waggle the joystick back in the day, so that's the first issue. It's not really so much a waggle. I think you're supposed to try and get into a slow rhythm, but on a D-pad it really doesn't work very well at all. So that was my first issue with this game, and I don't really know how it's going to work on Evercade. Maybe it'll be okay, but for me I didn't really enjoy it. I found it really tough and frustrating, and it's nowhere near as fun as Summer Camp. But anyway, that's just my initial thoughts. Okay guys, so that's all the games played from the Thalamus collection coming to Evercade in July. I'm absolutely chuffed to bits. I think it's a really decent collection, probably arguably could be the best C64 collection on Evercade, and no doubt about it, getting Creatures is one of the highlights for me. I absolutely love this game, if that's not been made clear already. Certainly my top 3 game from the Commodore 64 days. Absolutely fantastic. I'll leave you now guys with this torture scene successfully completed in that amazing soundtrack after you've actually won. Brilliant stuff. It's amazing. I love it. I'm looking forward to playing this on Evercade. Cannot wait.